Hi everybody, this is Celeste. I'm a Nationally Certified Interventionist, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about my experience with drinking and addiction. So towards the end of my addiction, I was spending about $35 a day on alcohol, which translates to about $250 a week, $1,000 a month, which adds up to $12,000 a year. That's enough to buy a really decent used car. So that's a lot of money. But I think even over and above that, the human cost of drinking for me was I'd lost my self-confidence, I've lost my self-esteem, I lost my self-respect, I lost my motivation, I lost myself, I lost all my dreams and goals. I didn't have any ambitions anymore. My biggest ambition was to drink and to escape reality, which I think is the underlying motivation for a lot of drinkers or a lot of people that are using drugs or alcohol, is to get away from reality and to escape that for a little bit because of anxiety or pain or trauma or whatever is going on for them. Aside from the financial cost, I really lost a lot to my drinking, and I used to go to bed every night thinking, I wish, God would just take me. I wish I could just fall asleep and not wake up. And that's something that's very common, I think, for a lot of people that are really in the vice of addiction, is really just not wanting to die, like not wanting to live anymore, like wanting to die or to just pass away in their sleep or to overdose. And I think and this might sound harsh, but a lot of people that are addicted to substances they want to die, but it's almost like they're too afraid to actively kill themselves. So it's a very slow and painful way to go. And I didn't see any way out. I never thought that I could get even 24 hours of sobriety. And I'm coming up to 4 years sober and 4 years in recovery. And it hasn't been easy, right? I had to do a lot of work on myself and finding myself again and working on a lot of my mental health issues and the anxiety and a lot of past trauma. I had several traumatic experiences in my life that really I hadn't dealt with and I hadn't processed in a healthy way. So for me, drinking was really a way to excuse me, escape all that. But in recovery, I was able to do a lot of that hard work to start to overcome some of that trauma and to deal with it more effectively and deal with it in a more healthy way. And it was, and even working on the social anxiety and the generalized anxiety disorder was huge. And even today, I still struggle with that. And I think I mentioned that in one of my other lives too, is that some days are better than others. And there's some days where I still really struggle with generalized anxiety and social anxiety. But overall, it's definitely an improvement from where I was, because even when I was drinking towards the end of my addiction, I had actually voluntarily checked into the psychiatric unit at a Calgary hospital just because my anxiety was so out of control, and drinking just made it worse. Like when I first started drinking, it really helped. It was a social lubricant. It really helped with my anxiety. But once you get to that level, it actually makes all those conditions worse and can actually start to present as new conditions. So towards the end, it did nothing effective for me. It just made things worse for me. So, but working through that in recovery, I've really been able to manage that a lot better. And even my worst days, it sounds cliche, but my worst days in recovery are still better than my best days in addiction. So, and that was a lot of hard work. I'm not going to lie. I had to do a lot of hard work. It was a lot of grueling work. It was a lot of conversations with counselors and other people in recovery. So it definitely wasn't easy. But I was able to, I didn't necessarily get the goals back that I had before I started drinking, but I was able to develop new goals. And one of those big goals that I have is paying it forward, because an intervention was done on me. And that's how I got into recovery. And I really feel like it saved my life, and it really gave me a new perspective on life that I really feel passionate about sharing with other people, and paying that forward and not wasting those years that I spent in addiction, right? So for me, it really gave me a new sense of purpose and gave me a new set of goals in and of itself, and helping people navigate getting into recovery and early recovery. And I think, even from my perspective, I think having that experience of having gone through addiction and some of the underlying issues, and I think that brings a practical realm of experience to people that are in addiction and want to find another way out other than the psychiatric unit or jail or death, and to find the positive outlet, right? So for me, working with people that are in recovery, I have that practical experience to offer that empathy and compassion, and I know where you've been and I can understand that. I've been in the trenches. So I think being able to offer that to people that are either in active addiction or early recovery, I think is very valuable to be able to talk to somebody who's been there and been through it and has done the work. And I think, hopefully that can give some people, whether it be families or people in active addiction, hope that it can get better. And it does get better if you're willing to do the work. And there is that condition that you have to be willing to do the work. So that's super important. There's no easier, softer way, right? You have to do the work. And that's super important. But I'm willing to walk alongside people to do that work and to be that person that supports you through it. So I definitely offer that to the people that I work with, and even from families that want to do an intervention with somebody that they love, or do their own recovery coaching. Especially when it comes to doing an intervention, I'm able to offer that perspective of knowing what it's like to be that person being intervened on and what worked for me. Like, would that have gotten me to go to treatment? Would that have alienated me? So I can give families that perspective too, and that understanding into the mind of an addict, because a lot of people can't understand the addicted mind. Like, why do you keep using? Why do you keep drinking with all these consequences? Like, you would think logically, from somebody that's not addicted, you're going to think, well, why do you keep using if you have all these negative consequences? Like, why can't you stop drinking for your kids or to save your life, or whatever the logical justification is? But addiction isn't logical, right? So I think I can really offer that perspective to families and offer that sense of understanding into our intervention coaching. And this is why they think the way they do, and it's not logical, it's not normal to people that aren't addicted, but it's in their mind, it's absolutely logical. So I just wanted to share a little bit of my story and a little bit of my perspective on what I offer to people in recovery and active addiction and to their families. And I really encourage you to, if you're struggling in addiction or in early recovery, or if you have a family member that's struggling in addiction, reach out and ask for help. And that's often the hardest step, is making that first phone call. So, and I would be happy to be that person that's your first phone call asking for help. I think that's definitely the hardest step to take. And a lot of people think the intervention is the hardest step. Getting that person treatment is the hardest step. It's not. It's picking that phone up and asking for help. So, and I would be honored to be that person in your life. So, please reach out if you're willing and wanting to get into an intervention or coaching. I'd be happy to help you out. Thanks for tuning in, guys.